والمرسلين خاتم النبيين مولانا ومولى الثقلين جد الحسن والحسين وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المهديين وأصحابه الغر المحجلين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن كنتم في ريب مما نزلنا على عبدنا فأتوا بسورة من مثله صدق الله العلي العظيم الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وآلك وعلى أصحابك يا سيدي يا حبيب الله. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Carrying on from the last lecture, continuing from the last lecture, which was about the source of guidance, that there were three sources of guidance, claimants of guidance, science, philosophy, and religion. Alhamdulillah, we eliminated science and philosophy as the contenders in the realm of guidance. Now we concentrate on religion and see which religion is the authentic, which is the right religion to guide humanity. Now, brothers and sisters, as we all know that all religions in the world, whether it's Judaism, Christianity, Islam, all religions, they all have this common factor, that they all believe in the idea of God. They all believe in God. They may explain God differently, they may explain the nature of God differently, but they all believe in God. Now, for a religious person to believe in God is no problem. But what about those who don't believe in God? Now, even though we don't really need to justify our claim in the belief in God, because we have already eliminated science and philosophy. But just for the sake of the younger viewers, let us also have a look quickly at the idea of God, see whether God exists or He doesn't exist. Now, for that reason, particularly for our younger listeners, I tell you a story of a nomad in the deserts of Arabia. There was this man who traveled the desert for days and weeks and months. But he didn't believe in God, he didn't believe in Allah. Because he was an atheist. He says, there's no such thing as God, everything is chance, there's no God. But once he was on top of his camel and going into the desert, and he traveled for days, for weeks. And then there came a point where this desert, this nomad, in the desert, he thought to himself that, look, no man, no one has ever come this far into the desert. As far as I have, achieved this, I'm the only one. Like the first man on the moon kind of thing, says, I am the only one who's come this far into the desert. As he came down of his, he stopped his camel, he came down off his camel, he stood on the sand, and straight away he notices something. He sees these camel droppings from some other camel on the sand. And he sees these footprints of a traveler. And straight at this point, my dear brothers and sisters, the spirit of Allah, the belief in Allah hit him. And quite impromptu and quite spontaneously, he says that al-ba'ratu tadullu ala al-ba'ir wa atharu al-qadami ala al-masir was-sama'u zatu abrajin wal-biharu zatu ambajin wal-ardu zatu fijajin kayfa la tadullu ala as-sami' al-basir. And he says, brothers and sisters, that the camel droppings point to the existence of a camel. The footprints on the sand tell of a traveler. The heavens with its stars, the earth with its mountains and valleys, the sea with its waves, don't they point to the existence of an all-knowing, an all-hearing, an all-powerful God? Of course they do. Creation is the best evidence of a creator, my dear brothers and sisters. From a drop to the ocean, from a grain of sand to the desert, from a flower to the garden, from a star to the galaxy, everything is pointing to the existence of a creator. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, we human beings, when we open our eyes of reason and intellect, we observe. See, that argument for the existence of God is for the young ones. But let us really have a look at it now, see whether God exists. See, brothers and sisters, when we open our eyes of reason, and when we apply our intellect, we see that we study this world, this external world. We observe life. We look at the mountains and valleys, the seas, the oceans, the trees, the birds, the animal kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, the mineral kingdom. When we study and observe life, what do we see? We see, my dear brothers and sisters, that nothing around us, nothing in the world that we come in contact with is eternal. See, an eternal is something which doesn't have a beginning or an end in time. And we conclude by reason that nothing in the world is eternal. That everything is temporal. Everything has a beginning in time. Everything has an end in time. Everything around us, everything in the world, my brothers and sisters, is dependent. And nothing in the world is self-subsistent. So, once we see this, we see that everything around us is limited, is dependent, is temporal, is needy. So, this begs the question that if everything is limited and dependent, then what has caused these things? Where have they come from? Because these limited and dependent things, they cannot cause themselves. Limited and dependent things cannot cause themselves. So what has caused them? Where do they come from? Now, obviously, there must be a creator which created all this phenomena, which created all the creation around us. And this creator who caused each and everything around us and ourselves must be totally different and separable from the creation. Why? Because the creator has the attribute of creation. So if he is the same as the creation, then obviously he will be limited, dependent, and needy. And limited and dependent things can't create things, They can't create this world. So the creator must be totally different from the creation. And the creator must be eternal. Because obviously, if he is not eternal, then he cannot create. Now, through the application of reason, we as human beings, we human beings can, have a look